There is a moment in your life when everything changes. Not when the money arrives, not when the world applauds, not when the crowd cheers your name. No, it happens in silence. It happens in solitude. It happens the moment you look yourself in the mirror, beyond the mask of fear, beyond the layers of excuses, and say to yourself, I am worth more. I will no longer shrink to fit into a life that was never designed for me. That is the moment wealth begins. That is the moment your destiny shifts. That is the moment the universe leans in to listen, because wealth is not something you chase, it is something you claim. You do not attract abundance through desperation. You magnetize it through conviction, through identity, through belief forged in fire. And belief, true belief, begins not in your mind, but in your soul. This is not about positive thinking. This is not about sitting in a corner whispering affirmations while your life slips away. No, this is about decision, ironclad, unshakable decision, that you are no longer available for mediocrity, that you are no longer a beggar at the table of life. Wealth responds to energy, to certainty, to self-worth declared with unwavering resolve. You become wealthy the moment you decide you're worth it, not a second before, not a cent before. Look at every titan of history, from Edison to Ford, from Carnegie to Disney, and you will see the same moment repeated in different forms, behind different faces, but echoing the same fire. They didn't wait for permission. They didn't wait for the right time. They decided. Ford was told the V8 engine was impossible. Edison failed over 10,000 times before the light bulb. Carnegie rose from poverty with no pedigree, no connections, just a burning desire that would not be silenced. They did not ask if they were worthy. They told the world they were. They made the decision, and then they made it true. And what about you? You who wakes up knowing there is something greater inside you, yet keeps hitting snooze on your potential. You who trades your vision for distractions, your brilliance for comfort, your legacy for likes. Let me ask you, who told you you weren't enough? Who convinced you that wealth was reserved for the chosen few? Who sold you the lie that you must earn your worth through exhaustion, through sacrifice, through years of invisible suffering? You weren't born to blend in. You weren't made to play small. You are not a background character in someone else's story. Inside you is the same spark that lit up Edison's lab, that launched Disney's dreams from a drawing board in a garage, that built Rockefeller's empire from ambition alone. But that spark only becomes fire when you decide, I will no longer betray my potential. You must understand, you do not become wealthy by waiting. You become wealthy by waking up. And wealth is not just money. It is presence. It is purpose. It is owning your time, commanding your mind, creating a life that reflects the royalty of your spirit. Yes, money will come, but only to the identity that knows how to hold it. And you cannot hold abundance with a broken cup of self-worth. So stop asking, what should I do? Start asking, who must I become? You must become the person who no longer negotiates with fear. You must become the one who walks into the fire of uncertainty and refuses to leave without the flame of greatness. You must become the one who draws a line in the sand and says, this is the day my life begins, because wealth does not respond to need. It responds to standard. And the standard you set internally becomes the life you live externally. So what is your standard? Is it excellence or is it average? Is it courage or is it convenience? Do you rise with purpose or do you sleepwalk through life, hoping one day it'll just work out? But listen to me, no one is coming to save you. The cavalry isn't coming. There is no rescue plan. There is only you and the power you've been burying beneath distractions, beneath doubt, beneath the lies you were told by those too afraid to chase their own greatness. You were not born to inherit their limitations. You were born to rewrite the narrative, to break the chain, to raise the standard, to decide, right here, right now, that you are worth every ounce of success, every drop of wealth, every breath of freedom this life has to offer. But you must declare it. You must live it. You must walk like it, speak like it, move like it, before the world reflects it, because your outer world is nothing but a mirror of your inner truth. And truth does not bend to fear, it shatters it. Wealth is not the result, wealth is the reflection. And when you finally decide that you are no longer available for anything less than abundance, the world rearranges itself around your belief. It always has. It always will. The tragedy of the modern world is not poverty. It is self-abandonment. It's the man with a million dreams who never takes the first step. It's the woman with a symphony inside her who silences herself to keep others comfortable. It's the millions who wake up every morning, not to pursue a purpose, but to survive a routine that numbs their spirit and deadens their desire. They exist, but they are not alive, because they have not decided. They've made compromises, made excuses, made justifications, but they have not made a decision, and a true decision is a severance, a cutting away of all other options, a burning of the ships, a declaration. This is who I am now. This is what I expect. This is the life I claim. Not one day, not someday, now. Do you think Abraham Lincoln waited for ideal conditions before rising to lead a nation divided? Do you think Oprah Winfrey, born into poverty, abused as a child, discounted by the world, waited for someone to validate her potential before owning her voice? No, they looked into the furnace of their own suffering and forged a strength that would not bow. They knew they were worth more, and they decided they would live like it. The world you want is waiting on the other side of your decision, but that decision cannot be made with hesitation. It must be made with intensity. You must walk through the door of your next level as if it belongs to you, because it does. You must stop auditioning for the life you were born to live. There is no casting call for greatness. There is only claiming. Every master was once a novice. Every empire began as a sketch. Every revolution was sparked by one soul who finally said, enough hiding, enough waiting, enough playing by rules written by people who've never lived what they preach. Your life is not a rehearsal. This moment right now is your arena. And the war is not outside you. It never was. The war is within. It's the battle between the voice that says, who do you think you are? And the one that whispers, I am everything I need to become. It's the collision between the identity you've accepted and the one you were destined to embody. And in every second, with every breath, you are choosing which one wins. Let this be the breath where you decide. Let this be the second where you rise from the ashes of your excuses and become the architect of your wealth. Because wealth is not just in dollars, it is in dominion. Dominion over your time, dominion over your mind, dominion over your direction, your energy, your impact. Wealth is the power to say, I will live life on my terms, and you earn that power not through inheritance or luck, but through relentless intention, through a standard so high that even the stars must rearrange to match it. And no, it will not be easy. The path of decision is lined with resistance, because the moment you decide you are worth more, every insecurity you've buried will rise to the surface to test your commitment. Your past will whisper, remember your failures. Your peers will question, why can't you just be happy with what you have? Your fear will scream, what if you lose everything? But you must stand taller than all of it and reply, I will lose nothing that was meant for me. I will only lose the life I was never meant to live, because playing small never protected you. It only delayed you. It only dimmed you, and you were never meant to be dimmed. You are the fire that ignites futures. You are the thunder beneath untold legacies. You are the gold hidden beneath layers of limitation, waiting for the moment you strike the ground hard enough to awaken your truth. This world does not need more followers. It needs forgers. Forgers of wealth. Forgers of vision. Forgers of futures, carved by hands that refuse to stay idle. And you, yes, you are one decision away from becoming that. Not tomorrow, now. Because here is what they don't teach you in school, what they don't say in boardrooms or books. Wealth is not achieved. It is embodied before the car, before the company, before the millions in the account. It lives inside the way you carry yourself when no one is watching. It lives in how you speak to yourself when the world doubts you. It lives in the actions you take when it would be easier to do nothing at all. Your wealth is waiting inside your discipline, inside your alignment. Alignment with your values, alignment with your vision, alignment with your worth. So stop trying to impress people who are scared of their own reflection. Stop dimming your light to protect the feelings of those committed to the dark. The truth is, you do not owe anyone a version of yourself that stays broke just to keep them comfortable. You owe yourself the life you came here to build. You owe it to the younger version of you who dreamed without filters. You owe it to the older version of you who will one day look back and ask, did we do it? Did we become who we were meant to be? Let the answer be, yes, we did. We decided we were worth it, and we lived like it. They will call you obsessed. Let them. They will say you've changed. Say thank you, because the version of you that tolerated less, that settled for crumbs while craving the banquet, is gone, dead and buried. This new you, the awakened you, the decided you, is no longer interested in the comfort of conformity. You were not put on this earth to blend in. You were not born to be digestible. You are not here to be liked. You are here to lead. And leaders don't wait for approval. They move with purpose. They breathe with vision. They act with the authority of someone who knows, my worth is not on trial. It is the foundation upon which my life is built. Look around. Look at those you admire, not the influencers, not the surface-level noise, but the real architects of impact. The ones who left marks so deep time itself remembers them. They all share one trait. They decided to pay the price success demands, in focus, in discipline, in solitude, in obsession. Because wealth, true wealth, does not come to those who want it. It comes to those who are willing to become the version of themselves that can hold it without crumbling. You don't get what you want. You get what you are. So the real work is internal. Yes, there will be strategies, tactics, actions, but all of it is built on the identity you decide to wear each day. An identity that says, I am no longer available for doubt. I am no longer available for distractions dressed up as obligations. I am no longer available for the illusion of safety that keeps me broke. Because here's the truth no one tells you. The 9-to-5 you hate is not security. The relationships you tolerate are not loyalty. The dreams you've shelved will not stay quiet forever. There will come a time when the ache of not living becomes louder than the fear of trying. Let that moment be now. Let the hunger inside you break free from the chains of hesitation. Because discipline is not a punishment. It is your liberation. When you become disciplined, you stop negotiating with your lower self. You no longer let your emotions write checks your results can't cash. You rise before the sun not because it's easy, but because every minute you invest in yourself becomes another brick in the empire you're building. Discipline is the bridge between desire and destiny, and clarity is the compass. You cannot hit a target you refuse to name. You cannot build a legacy if your vision is buried beneath distractions. So get clear, not just on what you want, but why you want it. Surface goals don't fuel longevity. Emotion does. Purpose does. Identity does. Do you want wealth to feel powerful, to rewrite your story, to provide for others in a way no one ever did for you? Good. Own that. Because clarity isn't just about goals. It's about permission. The permission to want what you want without apology. The permission to chase your vision without asking if it's realistic. The permission to define success on your terms and pursue it with zero hesitation. Your vision must be so clear that no rejection, no delay, no betrayal can blur it. When Ford envisioned the automobile for every family, people mocked him. When Walt Disney pitched his ideas, he was told he lacked imagination. When Napoleon Hill wrote about invisible forces and belief systems shaping wealth, he was ridiculed by those too blind to see the power within themselves. But history does not remember the critics. It remembers the creators. And creators operate from vision, not circumstance. You must stop waiting for the external world to give you signs. You are the sign. You are the signal to your own soul that it's time to rise, time to act, time to become. Because action, consistent, intentional, purpose-driven action is the cure for fear. And the most successful people you know, they are not fearless. They are trained. Trained to move in the presence of fear. Trained to act when others freeze. Trained to execute when most hesitate. They have conditioned themselves to rise while others rest, to speak while others whisper, to build while others scroll. They have become weaponized in their purpose, and you must too, because the game you're playing, it's not about one win. It's about becoming a force of nature, a force that doesn't beg for permission. It moves and lets the world adjust. But to move like that, you need resilience, because life will test you. It will throw storms in your path, not to break you, but to reveal you. The question is not, will it get hard? It's, will you keep going anyway? When they doubt you, will you keep building? When the bank account is low, will you keep investing? When no one claps, will you clap for yourself? Because that is the price of wealth, of power, of becoming. You must be willing to walk through the valley of uncertainty with nothing but your belief and still move like a king, because that belief is not just self-help, it is your birthright. To believe in yourself is to remember who you were before the world convinced you otherwise. To believe in yourself is to go back to the source, before the trauma, before the losses, before the failures, and reconnect with the version of you that still dared to dream, and then act from that place. Build from that place. Speak, move, and live from that place. That is where the shift happens, not when the money lands, not when the validation arrives, but when you look in the mirror, stare your past in the eyes and say, I'm not who I was. I'm not who they said I had to be. I am who I decide I am. And I decide I'm worth it. There's no arrival, no final destination. No point where you sit atop a throne and say, now I am wealthy and the work is done. Because wealth isn't a place you reach, it's a way you walk. It's a rhythm, a state of being, a vibration you carry with you into every room, every conversation, every breath. You either walk in the frequency of abundance or you stumble in the shadow of scarcity. The difference? One comes from identity, the other comes from insecurity, and the line between them is drawn by decision. Not once, but daily. You decide who you are every morning your feet hit the floor. You decide whether today is just another day or the day everything changes, not because of what happens to you, but because of what awakens within you. The average person reacts. The wealthy person creates. The average waits. The wealthy initiates. The average seeks approval. The wealthy moves from self-authorization. This is why wealth multiplies in the hands of the worthy, not the entitled. Because wealth, real wealth, is a force, and it must be directed by someone who knows who they are. You cannot command wealth if you cannot command yourself. Discipline is your ally. Routine is your ritual. Vision is your oxygen. And purpose is your fuel. Without purpose, wealth is a hollow crown, a kingdom built on sand. But when wealth is married to purpose, your life becomes untouchable. You stop chasing money because money begins chasing you. It finds its way into your life through alignment, through value creation, through magnetism. You don't need to scream to be seen. You just need to stand fully in who you are, and who you are is not who the world told you to be. You are not your limitations. You are not your history. You are not your trauma, your bank balance, or your broken beginnings. You are what you choose to become. And every act of courage, every moment of discipline, every hour of focus, it compounds, it builds, it grows, until one day, without warning, the dam breaks, and what once felt impossible becomes inevitable. Because wealth is not a lottery, it is a law, and the law is simple. You get what you believe you deserve, not what you wish for, not what you hope for, what you embody. Do you walk like someone worth millions? Do you speak like someone with legacy in their blood? Do you carry yourself with the fire of someone who knows the world bends to those bold enough to claim it? Because if not, start now. Start where you are, with the pain in your chest and the hunger in your belly, with the fear in your throat and the fire in your bones. Start with the idea that won't leave you alone. Start with the vision that haunts your sleep. Start with the gift you've been burying beneath excuses, pretending you're waiting for the right time. There is no right time. There is only now, and now is sacred. Now is divine. Now is where destiny is made. But you must be willing to fail, to fall, to stand back up when no one claps and no one sees. Because wealth is not the reward of perfection, it is the reward of persistence. Persistence in the dark, persistence in the silence, persistence when the world calls you crazy, irresponsible, delusional, and yet you keep moving. Because your spirit knows what your mind sometimes forgets, you are the storm they told you to fear, and no amount of failure can drown the fire of a soul that refuses to quit. Think about it. Think about the legends. Thomas Edison didn't just invent the light bulb, he invented a new relationship with failure. Over 10,000 attempts, 10,000 failures. And yet, when asked about them, he simply said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That's not stubbornness. That's ownership. That's a man who decided his vision was worth more than his comfort. You must do the same. You must fall in love with the process, not because it's easy, but because it's sacred. Every early morning, every late night, every rep, every rejection, every sacrifice, it all matters. It is all carving you into the person who can not only receive wealth, but hold it. Because if you are not mentally, emotionally, spiritually prepared for abundance, it will destroy you. Wealth without self-worth is a recipe for sabotage. That's why so many people win the lottery and lose it all. Why athletes reach the top and crash back down. Why entrepreneurs scale fast and burn out even faster. They never built the inner world to match the outer. But you are building both, brick by brick, thought by thought, action by action. This is not just about money. This is about becoming a magnet for everything meant for you. And magnets don't chase, they attract. Through alignment, through clarity, through a relentless refusal to settle, you will be misunderstood, you will be questioned, you will be told to be realistic, to slow down, to be grateful for what you have. But you are not here to make others comfortable. You are here to become undeniable, and the day you decide you are worth it, not kind of worth it, not conditionally worth it, but fully, fiercely, forever worth it, is the day everything begins to bend in your favor. Not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. Not because obstacles disappear, but because you no longer see them as threats. You see them as tests, as invitations, as proving grounds. You become the kind of person who doesn't run from pressure. You thrive in it, because diamonds are not made in silence. They are made in pressure. And you, my friend, were never meant to be coal. You were meant to shine. You were meant to shine so brightly that even those who tried to bury you are forced to squint in your presence. You were meant to radiate with the unshakable energy of someone who knows. I built this. Every scar, every sleepless night, every moment of doubt, I turned it into gold. And not the kind you hold in your hands, the kind you hold in your spirit. Because true wealth is not counted in currency. It's counted in capacity. Your capacity to lead, to endure, to focus, to serve, to create. Money is just one of its echoes. Legacy, that's the real prize. What will they say about you when you're gone? Will they say you played it safe? Will they say you dimmed your brilliance to fit into rooms never designed for you? Or will they say they were different? They mattered. They walked like they knew the ground rose to meet their feet. They didn't wait for a throne. They built one. That is your power. You can build. You can create. You can alchemize every ounce of pain, rejection, failure, and turn it into fuel. Do you understand what that means? It means you are unstoppable. Because when life throws stones, you don't break, you build. When doors close, you carve your own. When they tell you no, you say, "Watch me," and not with bitterness, not with spite, but with grace, with conviction. Because this is not about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. And every time you get back up, you do. You prove to the little kid in you who once felt forgotten, "I never really left you." You prove to the future version of you watching from the mountaintop, "We're coming." You prove that worth was never a question. It was a reclamation. You were born worthy. They just tried to make you forget. But now you remember. Now you reclaim. Now you rise. Not because you finally earned it, but because you finally decided to stop negotiating with your own greatness. There is no half measure here. You don't dip your toes into destiny. You dive. You don't wait for conditions to align. You are the alignment. You don't pray for permission. You move like it's already yours. And yes, you will be tested. Not because life is cruel, but because wealth is not given lightly. It must be earned through evolution. You want more, become more. That's the law. You want abundance, then shed every belief, every habit, every excuse that contradicts it. Because every time you say, I can't, I'm not ready, maybe later you plant weeds in the garden of your future. But when you say, I will, I must, it's mine, you plant oak trees, unshakable, deep-rooted, towering. That's how legacies grow, not from speed, but from certainty. And that certainty only comes when you stop outsourcing your worth. No relationship, no title, no amount of praise or followers or digits in your account will make you feel worthy if you haven't decided to be it first. This is the inner game, and once you master it, the outer world has no choice but to follow. That's why the richest people in the world don't start with tactics. They start with beliefs, because beliefs shape behavior, and behavior shapes outcomes. You want to change your life, change your patterns. You want to break generational cycles. Start with your daily decisions. Wake up and move like someone who matters. Invest like someone who expects returns. Speak like someone who demands truth. Build like someone who knows empires don't fall from the sky. They rise from discipline, and they rise from gratitude. Yes, gratitude. Not for what's coming, but for what already is. Because wealth that's not rooted in gratitude becomes poison. It feeds ego. It breeds entitlement. It collapses under its own weight. But gratitude keeps you grounded. Gratitude reminds you that you are already rich, in breath and time, in potential. And when you move from that space, everything you touch multiplies. You don't hustle from lack. You create from overflow. You don't chase money. You attract impact. And impact is the real currency. That's what outlives you. That's what echoes through generations. The children you inspire, the lives you shift, the fire you light in someone who sees you rise and finally believes they can too. That's why you keep going. That's why you show up even when no one claps. That's why you speak life over your dreams, even when they look dead. Because you are not just building wealth, you are building testimony. You are writing a story so powerful that the world will have to remember your name, not because you shouted it, but because you became it. Because when the world said be realistic, you replied, I am. I'm just not limited by your version of it. And then you built, and then you became. You became the storm, the light, the force, the proof that it was always possible, if you were willing to decide. And now there is no turning back. Now the world must adjust to your frequency, because you've chosen wealth, not as a prize, but as a posture, not as a result, but as a reflection of who you are, of what you believe, of the decision you made when everything inside you screamed for safety, and you chose sovereignty. That is the moment wealth was born, not in a bank, not in a breakthrough, but in you. That is the moment everything changed, the silent second when you remembered yourself. Not the self shaped by fear, not the self dulled by mediocrity, not the self wrapped in guilt or hidden behind some day, but the real you, the one who's been there since the beginning, the one who dared to dream before the world told you not to. That self is still alive. It's still waiting, not for a miracle, not for permission, but for your decision. Because everything changes the moment you decide you're worth it, not half of it, not some of it, all of it. The peace, the power, the prosperity, the impact, the love, the legacy. It's not too much. It's not a fantasy. It's not for them. It's for you, if you'll rise to meet it. If you'll step out of the prison of your old identity and step into the battlefield where the new you is forged. Yes, battlefield. Because transformation is not passive. It's not soft. It's not easy. It's war. A war between who you've been and who you're called to become. And most people lose. Not because they're not capable, but because they never commit. They keep one foot in comfort, one hand on the past, one eye on the escape route. But wealth doesn't come to the half-hearted. It doesn't arrive for the hesitant. It comes when you burn the boats, when you say, I'm not going back, I'm not shrinking, I'm not negotiating, and you step forward like it's already done, because in truth, it is. The future you desire already exists. It's already real. It's already yours. But you must become the version of you who can hold it. That's the secret no one tells you. They sell you the dream, the car, the house, the lifestyle, but they don't tell you what it costs. Not in dollars, in identity. You must let go of the you who doubts, the you who delays, the you who performs and pretends and hopes the world will finally notice. No, that version must die, because in its ashes rises the one who does not wait to be chosen, the one who chooses themselves, like Lincoln chose to rise from failure and ridicule to lead a nation, like Ford chose to reimagine transportation when horses were still considered luxury, like Oprah chose to own her voice in a world that tried to silence it, like Disney, who was told he lacked imagination and built a world of dreams anyway. Do you think they didn't face fear? Do you think they didn't question themselves? Of course they did, but they moved through it. They understood that fear is not the enemy, it is the indicator. It shows you where your power lies dormant. It shows you where your next evolution lives. And if you can lean in, if you can walk toward it with open hands and a steady gaze, you will discover that fear is not a wall, it's a door, and only the worthy have the courage to knock. So knock, and when the world doesn't answer, kick it open, not with violence, with vision, with clarity, so sharp it cuts through doubt, with belief so deep it silences every voice of limitation. Because here's the truth, the world reflects not what you want, but what you believe you are allowed to have. And belief is a muscle. You build it every time you act in faith, every time you speak life instead of lack, every time you choose movement over misery, discipline over distraction, action over anxiety. And yes, you will be alone at times. That is the price of vision, because not everyone will understand your path, and they're not supposed to. They didn't see the dream planted in your heart. They didn't feel the fire in your soul at 3 a.m. when you were planning, crying, writing, building, believing. They don't know what it's like to be called. But you do, and that call demands everything. Not some cheap version of success, not some filtered highlight reel. Everything. Your mind, your focus, your sacrifice, your soul. But it gives you everything in return, because when you meet wealth at that level, that deep soul-earned inner-anchored level, it doesn't just change your life, it becomes your life. It bleeds into your relationships, your health, your leadership, your peace. You become a walking miracle, a lighthouse in a storm, a symbol that it can be done and done the right way, without compromise, without selling out, without dimming your truth to fit the mold. You break the mold, and that's how you win. Not by becoming someone else, not by chasing the blueprint of the loudest voice in the room, but by listening to your own, the voice that says I was made for more, the voice that whispers, it's not over, the voice that screams I am worth it. Every time you ignore that voice, the world grows dimmer, but every time you honor it, with action, with presence, with faith, the world gets brighter. So speak, move, act, decide. Let your life become a monument to the power of a made-up mind. Let your days be proof that nothing can stop a person who remembers their worth. And when the storms come, because they will, let your worth be the anchor. When the world questions your value, let your worth be the answer. And when the time comes to look in the mirror and ask, did I really live? Let your reflection reply, I did more than live. I became the person I was born to be. Not because it was easy, not because the world made room for me, but because I refused to shrink, because I stopped asking how and started declaring now. And when I did, the world moved, the wind shifted, the ground tilted, the doors opened, not because they were unlocked, but because I kicked them open with clarity, vision, and conviction. You don't wait for wealth, you become it. You don't chase impact, you embody it. You don't hope for greatness, you decide you're worthy of it. And then you show up like your life depends on it, because it does. That is the final truth. This world will offer you every distraction imaginable, comfort, comparison, compliments, chaos. But those are just noise. The signal, the one true signal, is your decision. Every great leader, creator, and world changer knew that. Edison didn't just invent the light bulb. He decided the world needed light, and then he became the kind of person who would not stop until it existed. He failed over 1,000 times, but he said, "I have not failed. I've just found 1,000 ways that won't work." That's not persistence. That's identity. That's wealth. Wealth of character, belief, and destiny. And it is available to you. But you must choose it before it arrives. You must walk like it's already yours. Talk like it's already yours. Build like it's already yours. Because the universe doesn't respond to desperation. It responds to certainty. And certainty doesn't come from results. It comes from resolve. Resolve that says, I don't care how long it takes. I don't care how hard it gets. I don't care who doubts me. I'm already chosen because I chose myself. And that is the moment life bends in your favor. Because when you shift from wishing to walking, from hoping to harnessing, from dreaming to doing, you become undeniable. You step into the rare air of those who own their breath, own their time, own their soul, and the world it notices, because there is nothing more powerful than a person who no longer needs to be convinced, a person who has burned the mask, silenced the noise, and walked head first into the fire, only to emerge not burned, but forged. That is you. That has always been you. You just forgot how powerful you are, forgot how divine your mind is, forgot that every cell in your body carries the blueprint of impossible made real. But now you remember, now you reclaim, and when you do, you awaken a force so fierce that even your enemies will whisper your name in awe, because your rise will be so undeniable, so pure, so aligned, that even the doubters will become believers. Not because you explained yourself, not because you convinced them, but because you became the evidence. So what now? You've heard the truth. You've felt the call. You've seen the path. What do you do next? You decide. You decide that enough is enough. You decide that you are no longer waiting, begging, or bargaining for a life that is already yours. You decide to take back your mind, your mornings, your habits, your hunger. You decide to become the kind of person wealth chases, not the kind who chases wealth, because that's the secret they never taught you. It's not the money that makes the person. It's the decision that makes the person, and the person who is made makes the money. Because real wealth is magnetic, and it only responds to those who've declared themselves ready. So declare it, right now, not tomorrow, not next year, now, not quietly, not passively, boldly. Say it with your choices. Say it with your work ethic. Say it with how you carry yourself into every room you enter from this moment forward. Say it in the silence, when no one is watching and no one is clapping, especially then. Say it with your posture, with your presence, with the unshakable look in your eyes that says, I know who I am now, and I know what I'm worth. And when you do, the universe will conspire to meet you, because nothing is more powerful than a made-up mind. Not the market, not your past, not your environment, not even your limitations. All of those things bend beneath the weight of one thing, a soul on fire with belief. So light the match, and don't just ignite for a moment. Burn for a lifetime. Let your life be the torch that reminds others what is possible. Let your journey echo through generations as the moment everything changed, not just for you, but for everyone who came after. Because when one person remembers their worth, it lifts the world. You were never here to fit in. You were here to raise the standard. You were never meant to ask for crumbs. You were meant to feast at the table you built with your own hands. And you were never meant to chase wealth. You were born to realize it. Not in a bank account, but in the mirror. So take one last breath. Let it rise up through you. And hear this, not with your ears, but with your spirit. You become wealthy the moment you decide you're worth it. And you decide now, because if not now, when? If not you, who? There will never be a perfect time, only a powerful one, and that time is this one. So rise, build, shine, and never look back, because the version of you who waited, they no longer exist. Only the one who decided remains. And from this moment forward, everything changes.